Tonight we saw two different examples of how to approach a closeout game with a trip to the conference finals on the line. We saw the Cleveland Cavaliers go in front of their home fans and get beat by 20 points with a chance to go to the conference finals. Now they're going back on the road for Game 7. We saw the San Antonio Spurs go on the road to Minnesota with a chance to close out that series, and they won by 30 points. Pretty much dominated from the very jump. Two different stories, two different games. We're going to have one Game 7 on Sunday. We're going to, of course, talk about both of these matchups tonight. Let's dive into the Eastern Conference game, man. The Detroit Pistons keep their season alive yet again. They are 4-0 in games where their season's on the line. Games in elimination games, they're 4-0 right now. And I'm gonna be honest. After losing Game 5, after losing home court advantage, I thought that their season was over. Losing it in the way that they did, going scoreless in the last 3 minutes, losing in overtime, it just looked like, okay, their season's probably over. Because Cleveland, I got to give credit where credit was due, because it's not due anymore. But credit where credit was due. The Cavs were so great at home in these playoffs. So great at home. They have not lost a home playoff game. They look like a completely different team when they're in Rocket Mortgage Arena. I hope I'm saying I hope that's the right arena. But Rocket Mortgage Arena. And tonight you were expecting, okay, the crowd gonna be rocking. They're gonna have the fans behind them. They're gonna, the role players gonna play better, and they're gonna come out and get the win. But they didn't. And the second half, they just could not get nothing going. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to the Detroit Pistons defense. The Detroit Pistons defense is what got them here, and this was keeping them alive, because they are locking these teams down when it comes time to put the Pistons away. That you gotta play out your mind to get it done. And the way they made Donovan Mitchell and James Harden look tonight, Donovan Mitchell shot 6 for 20. James Harden had 8 turnovers. They have them in shambles. And it's going to be tough in Game 7 for both of those guys to get off. I'm going to be honest, Donovan Mitchell probably he's been real regular for majority of this series, aside from that second half in Game 4. He's been real regular. He's drawing the attention. He's drawing the matchup of Asar Thompson, who was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year, I believe. So I'm not, it's not like he's having a bad game against a scrub. He's playing against one of the best defenders in the NBA. But man, this is your moment. This is your moment, and this is what I talk about when I say I don't know if Donovan Mitchell is that guy. He's not shining in these moments. He's not, and tonight was a perfect chance to get the job done. Send your team to the conference finals. Go to your first conference finals, and he had a bad game. James Harden. We know how James Harden gets in these moments, and he had another one tonight. We're gonna see how Game 7 looks. Looking at the Pistons, I would say no performance really stood out. Tobias Harris only had 6 points tonight. I guess that stands out in the negative. But everyone else kind of was real regular. Paul Reed had 17 points off the bench. Paul Reed he matched Evan Mobley's production. And Paul Reed was a guy that's been playing a lot in this series due to the struggles of Jalen Duren, who had a pretty good game tonight. Jalen Duren, I got on your tail in my last video. I'm gonna say, dude, you had a good game tonight. Like, he performed tonight for sure. But Paul Reed, man, has been a difference maker in this series. Difference maker. He was good in Game 5, but once again, another good game in Game 6. Cade didn't have the crazy performance, but Cade did what he had to do. Cade, his impact on the game sometimes goes beyond the stat sheet. Like, you may think, oh man, Cade was a regular. But no, he had a pretty good game tonight, despite what the stats say. But it was all about the defense for me. It was all about the defense, man, and I think that's what continues to just keep this boat moving, keep this boat rolling, is the defense that the Detroit Pistons play. And even if their offense is bad, and I think it is very bad, but if they can cause turnovers and get out and run, then they're going to put up points, because that's the easy way to put up points, fast break buckets. So we got to see what happens in Game 7. I definitely thought the series would end tonight. And I'm not going to lie, I'll be a fool to just say, oh, well, Detroit's going to win in Game 7, because we don't know what's going to happen in this series. We don't know what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? It started out 2-0, then they got 2-2. Then, Cleveland stole home court, and you think it ends tonight, and they end up losing. So now we're going back to Detroit for Game 7. So I think that'll be a really good game on Sunday, probably Sunday afternoon. So we'll see what happens. We will, of course, have a recap for that, along with, different TikToks and stuff all over. Let's talk about the Western Conference. San Antonio Spurs took care of business, 139-109 victory. Opening up the game, it's like the two teams kind of knew, okay, we've been playing for 6 games. We know what works. We know what don't work. Let's get right into it. Finch, the Timberwolves head coach, decided to put Rudy Gobert on Stephon Castle. And, of course, Rudy Gobert is supposed to be a floater. So Rudy Gobert was not guarding Castle at all. So Castle was getting warm-up threes. And he knocked down 2 of them joints early. And he hit a third one that was like, I want to say that was like from like 29, 28 feet. And then, yeah, okay, this ain't going to work. This is not going to work. They tried to take Rudy off of Wemby and put Randall on for some physicality. That did not work. Castle ended up finishing with 5 threes. I think he had 32 points. Everybody else kind of performed. I think I had like 5 or 6, 7 guys in double digits tonight for the Spurs. It was all Spurs the whole way. There was a little mini flurry by the Timberwolves at the end of the first half by Anthony Edwards, but it was really all Spurs. And I'm going to be honest, you look at this series, that's kind of how it's been. It's been all Spurs for the most part. Game 1, Wemby shot 5 for 17. The Spurs shot horribly. They looked rusty in Game 1 and lost Game 1. And in Game 4, Wemby ended up getting ejected with the elbow and stuff like that. So when Wemby has a regular game, they won by a large margin most times. So yeah, I think this was an uphill battle for the Timberwolves off rip. Of course, I'm an Anthony Edwards. I'm an Ant fan. He's not one of my favorite players. He's not my favorite player, but he's one of my favorite players to watch. So, of course, as an Anthony Edwards fan, I was kind of holding off hope that, okay, Ant may be able to pull this off. And sometimes you saw him try to take over and get the job done. But at the end of the day, with the amount of pressure that they're putting on him defensively, sending 2 bodies at him, staying in his chest, not letting him get the ball, and then when he gets to the paint, he's got to deal with Wembanyama down there. It was ultimately just too much. And then I think the thing about the Timberwolves is they need to go out and get somebody. I don't think Randall second option ball is something they want to do anymore. Julius Randle had a good playoff run last year up until the Thunder series where they faced similar defensive pressure to what they face in this series. And this year, Randle had a good series against Denver and then was really, he wasn't really good at all in this series against the Spurs. And tonight he, finished 1 for 8 from the field, didn't play well. And I just don't think that's the right co-star beside Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards needs a guy where when those double teams come, he can pass the ball to somebody that can make a decision and get a bucket or get somebody else a bucket. Maybe a potential, maybe go out and get a guard. I know I throw Kyrie name everywhere because I'm a Kyrie fan and I want him on a different team. I guess if the Mavericks are, I guess their timeline's different, I want Kyrie to be on a different team. So I'm going to throw Kyrie name in the hat, man. Minnesota go and get Kyrie, that'll be a big addition. Because it's someone that can play beside Anthony Edwards. Somebody that if Anthony Edwards gets double teamed or he's facing the top defender on the team, the second defender's on Kyrie Irving. You know what I'm saying? And Kyrie can run an offense in itself. So with all that being said, I think the Timberwolves have got to make a move because your second and third options offensively being Julius Randle and then maybe a Jaden McDaniels, not gonna work. You're not gonna win a championship like that. You're not. And we've seen that for the last 2 seasons. Even the year before, Karl Anthony Towns had a horrible series. He had a horrible series against the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. But I think maybe you try something different. Anthony Edwards is still very young, and y'all got the facilities to go out and get somebody. You know what I'm saying? I know Kevin Durant was a big name surrounding the Timberwolves for a long time. And of course, they didn't want to get off of Jaden McDaniels. I would say for good reason. But Kevin Durant is the kind of guy that you want to put beside Anthony Edwards, a guy that he can get his own bucket and can draw attention to create buckets for somebody else. So we'll see what happens for the Timberwolves moving forward. But of course, before we get out of here, we gotta talk about the matchup that we all have been waiting to see for all season. We're gonna see the Spurs and the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. Now, there is no film or nothing. Like, normally before I give a prediction, I want to go and watch some clips, go and watch like some highlights from during the season. But we all know how this story went. The Spurs had their way. The Spurs had their way with the Thunder in the regular season. They did. And I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I look at the Spurs in this series. I look at the Spurs over the course of this whole playoff run. When Wembanyama played, they were dominant. They were dominant. I think they only lost, what? Maybe one game when he played the whole time? Their first loss came when he got knocked out in the first 10 minutes with the concussion. Their second loss came in this series when he shot 5 for 17 in game 1. And then game 4, he got ejected in the first half. Other than that, the Spurs have been dominant. And this goes back to what I've been saying all year long. When that Joker's on the court, they don't lose. I don't know what the numbers is, but at one point they were like 24-1 over the 25-game stretch of games that Wembanyama's played. Because that Joker, the team is really good, but Wembanyama as your star, dog, he is incredible. He's incredible, and I definitely think that he should be in the best player in the world conversations. And to be honest, he probably already is in best in the world conversation. But we're just waiting for the season to end so we can really start talking about those conversations. But his impact on the defensive end he's already the best defender in the world by far. And then when he plays offensively the way that you want a 7'4" guy to play, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. Nothing. So we're gonna see what happens in this series. I think I'm going to go with the Spurs. I think I'm going to go with the Spurs to win this series because I'm thinking with no J-Dub, and we have got no news on J-Dub. We may get some news tomorrow or something. But with no news on J-Dub, there's only 2 creators on that OKC team. Well, there's only 2 creators on the OKC, like, starting 5 or whatever. Like, the guys going to play the most minutes, and that's AJ Mitchell and Shai Gilgeous. And, man, we saw how the Lakers took SG out the game, but they did not allow him to just get off. The Spurs are going to do the same thing, and the Spurs got Wemby in the paint. And AJ Mitchell is this going to be a chance for him to have a coming out party. We're going to see how good the guy really is. I think he's real cold. We're going to see how good the guy really is. And without J-Dub, you're missing that third creator that I think you need in a series against San Antonio. Not to mention Wembanyama. I talked about how Wembanyama, when he plays the way you want him to play, Wembanyama takes that Chet Holmgren matchup personally. And I think he's going to go at Chet every single time he gets the ball. And it's going to be an absolute King Kong versus Godzilla. You know? So I think I'm going to have the Spurs. I think I'm going to take the Spurs to win in 6 games. Of course, we got to see how game 1 looks and how the adjustments look after that. But I think the Spurs are just too good. They're really good, especially if De'Aaron Fox is hooping too. This team is really good. They just got bodies. They just got so many guys they can throw at you. They got the best, 7, 8 guys. Man, it's really, really good. Really, really good. But that's all I got for y'all. And make sure y'all subscribe, man. Hit the subscribe button. Like, comment, share with your folks. Until next time, I'm going for 2. We out of here. Yeah.